Hello everyone. Today I want to talk about cravings, but not in the way you've heard before. Not about willpower. Not about emotional eating as a personality trait. Not about sugar addiction in the pop psychology sense. I want to talk about what cravings actually are at a biological level, because once you understand the mechanism, the craving stops feeling like a failure and starts feeling like information. And some of that information, honestly, is shocking because it points to a driver most people never consider: your gut bacteria. Yes, the microbes living in your digestive tract have a documented ability to influence your food preferences. According to research, gut bacteria produce neurotransmitters, metabolites, and signaling molecules that travel through the gut-brain axis and directly affect appetite, reward circuitry, and the perceived pleasure of specific foods. In one study, germ-free mice with no gut microbiome showed dramatically altered food preferences compared to conventionally raised mice, and when the microbiome was transplanted, the preferences shifted again. Your cravings are not entirely yours. Some of them belong to the organisms feeding on what you eat. With that as the foundation, let me walk you through 5 of the most common cravings, and what they are actually telling you. The first is sugar. Specifically the relentless, cycling kind that returns within an hour of eating something sweet. Most people understand this as a blood sugar issue, and partly it is. But the gut layer is just as important. Certain bacterial strains, particularly those that thrive on refined carbohydrates, produce metabolites that increase intestinal permeability and send hunger signals to the brain that mimic genuine glucose need. The second is salt, particularly the intense craving for it that appears even when your diet isn't low in sodium. This one often signals adrenal stress. The adrenal glands regulate sodium retention through a hormone called aldosterone, and when they are under chronic stress, which, as we've discussed, is extremely common in young adults, they can dysregulate sodium balance in ways that generate genuine physiological cravings for salt. According to research, chronically elevated cortisol disrupts aldosterone signaling, leading to increased urinary sodium excretion and a compensatory drive to consume more. In one study, participants under high perceived stress showed significantly higher salt preference scores than low stress controls, independent of their habitual dietary sodium intake. The craving isn't a character flaw. It's an adrenal signal. The third is cheese, or more broadly, fatty and umami-rich foods. This craving is often misread as indulgence, but it frequently signals a genuine need for fat-soluble nutrients, particularly calcium, vitamin K2, and specific fatty acids that support the gut lining and nervous system function. According to research, low dietary fat intake is associated with reduced absorption of fat-soluble vitamins and with dysregulation of the gut's mucus layer, which depends on specific fatty acids for its structural integrity. Your gut lining is partly made of fat. When it's undernourished, the body generates cravings for high-fat foods as a restoration signal. The problem is that not all fatty foods deliver what the system actually needs, so the craving cycles without resolution. The fourth is chocolate, and this one is genuinely fascinating. Dark chocolate contains magnesium, theobromine, and specific polyphenols that act as prebiotics for beneficial gut bacteria. According to research, regular consumption of dark chocolate polyphenols was associated with significant increases in lactobacillus and bifidobacterium populations, reduced cortisol metabolites, and lower self-reported stress levels over a 4-week period. So when you crave chocolate, you may be craving magnesium, which, as I've mentioned before, a significant proportion of the population is subclinically deficient in. The fifth is bread, pasta, or starchy carbohydrates. The craving that intensifies specifically when you are exhausted or emotionally depleted. This one is deeply rooted in serotonin biology. Carbohydrates trigger insulin release, which clears competing amino acids from the bloodstream and increases the brain's uptake of tryptophan, the precursor to serotonin. Your body, when it is low on serotonin or emotionally dysregulated, will generate a craving for carbohydrates as a fast-acting mood stabilization strategy. According to research, individuals with lower gut microbiome diversity, and therefore reduced capacity to produce serotonin precursors through the gut-brain axis, reported significantly stronger carbohydrate cravings during periods of stress compared to those with higher microbial diversity. The craving is the brain attempting a shortcut to serotonin because the more sustainable route gut-produced precursors is insufficient. Here is the pattern I want you to see across all 5 of these. None of these cravings are irrational. None of them are purely about pleasure-seeking or a lack of discipline. Each one is a signal from your gut, your hormones, your nervous system, your microbiome, pointing towards something that is imbalanced or deficient in the system. The problem is not that you want these foods. The problem is that the signal keeps returning because the underlying need is never actually addressed. Sugar cravings return because the bacterial population driving them is still dominant. Salt cravings return because the adrenal stress generating them is still present. Carbohydrate cravings return because the serotonin deficit producing them hasn't been resolved at its source. Treating cravings as moral failures makes them stronger. Understanding them as biological signals gives you somewhere real to look. I hope this shifted something for you today. Drop a comment and tell me which craving resonated most. I genuinely want to know. If this was useful, hit the like button and share it with someone who has been too hard on themselves about what they eat. And if you're new to Nutriflow, this is exactly what we do here. Real science, no shame. Subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you in the next one.